Hello, folks, and welcome back to another episode of the Daily Crypto Byte. Today is Thursday, February 24th, and some very, very bearish price action last night as the global macro backdrop is weighing heavy on the crypto markets, on the equity markets as well. Plenty to talk about today. Before we get started, CJ, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing well. Obviously a lot of macro uncertainty last night with the invasion. Obviously more important than just financial markets, but obviously there's drastic impact last night, especially when, you see that map of all the stars across the Ukraine and basically how they've been Russian attacks or reported Russian attacks. So obviously global indices and everything just really reacted strongly to that. Looking forward to highlighting some critical levels and different strategic plays amidst this global conflict and uncertainty. But yeah, just really, really shocking and tragic. So
Yeah, it really is, a somber morning, and it's up to this point. It kind of it's felt like, this war could be avoided, and that perhaps, it's being blown out of proportion by the media, and that war wasn't imminent. But now it does feel very real. I mean, I follow some Ukrainian crypto traders on Twitter, and they're talking about how they hear explosions and that now they're having to go down, into bunkers because they're anticipating more shelling. And it's not just there. I mean, CJ, we talked a lot about how over the last couple decades, there's been multiple chances to quote unquote buy the invasion, but this feels like it has the possibility of escalating into something much more significant. We've already seen reports that China is kind of using this as an opportunity to send some planes into Taiwan. So I don't know, just lots of global uncertainty, people afraid about how this may domino effect. And yeah, it is really, really scary. But yeah, this was the chart I was referencing. Any comments on this?
just highlighting them throughout history. I believe we do have one, for the Gulf of Tonkin as well. But I think the thing that is different about some of these particular events, and we were discussing this before the show, Monty, is you know, these were all in relative. I mean, obviously we're looking at a weekly chart years out here, but um, I just feel like we've been so overextended in 2021 and 2022 here after all of the stimulus, record amounts of stimulus we got after COVID. And we didn't really have that type of hyperextension in these particular situations, especially with Iraq and Afghanistan coming off the back of the 2001 and 2000 tech bubble. So I definitely think that while this is an interesting case study to kind of look back at tragic historic invasions, I hate to say this time is different, but I mean, I do believe it is, in the sense that we are at a period just coming down from a period of kind of hyperextension in basically every global indice. And then you have, inflation rates, or you have rates rising, you have oil virtually going through the roof. The only thing that was interesting to me, and I think this does deserve some discussion, is the fact that 10-year and 30-year treasury yields are down pretty immensely today. Let me see. They're down roughly 2 and 3%. And so that is on the back of the market essentially expecting the Fed not to hike rates now due to this global conflict. And, we'll see if they kind of wind back their tapering and their hikes. But I mean, I think that's a little too optimistic. What do you have any interpretations of rates and things like that?
Yeah, it's just been, such a weird couple of years. And we really, like you said, we didn't need another catalyst for, this market to turn down. We are already turning down because of the, possibility of rate hikes. And, now for obvious reasons, those concerns have taken a back seat to, this global conflict that's arising now. So, yeah, it's just tough to say. I mean, we have multiple bearish catalysts acting on price after a massive overextension of the stock market following record money printing, an unprecedented year because of COVID. but all of that is, feeding into the price action that we're seeing today and the price action that we saw last night. So it's just, very uncertain times, but, lots of this uncertainty is weighing on the market. And I think that's, evident from the correction that we're seeing now.
Speaking of that correction, why don't we take a look at some data, namely, global indices, some commodities, and then of course BTC and potential short setups going into potential bearish continuation. Because I do agree with you, Monty. I mean, this is clearly a catalyst that struck the selling cascade that we saw last night. But still, I mean, we are already set up for, like we had been talking just about how the market has been in a very bearish posture, really since the start of the week. This is the Dow. And we have big gap in all these major indices this morning. So we'll see if that gap actually does get filled or we get a reaction rally in the next couple of days. Nevertheless, I think it's interesting to note that we are, coming down to the bottom of the range, some of these critical levels. Support at 32,000. We'll see if that holds. But I would look for that gap to potentially fill in the short term. SPY, very similar story. Already seeing kind of a hammer candle following the massive sell-off, and a little bit of divergence kind of on the RSI. Not a whole lot of substantial price action yet. ARK is actually positive to the as of now, which is quite interesting after opening down over 3%. Most notably, DXY has really been bullish. We're getting towards the top of that range that we've really been consolidating in for pretty much the start of the year, even before the start of the year. We'll see if that is able to actually break out. I lean kind of towards the rejection and then potentially go back up and break out in terms of the DXY. But something that we've been harping on is that cocktail between, DXY, US oil, going through the roof, going over 100 in terms of, the crude oil futures, and then rates. Fortunately for the bulls, I mean, rates are not, they're kind of creating that deviation pattern. They're topping out at the short term, but, they are somewhat finding some support here at 86. So that's just something that is not necessarily actionable, but just something that we have to look at. Uranium up quite a bit. Definitely one to watch. How's gold been doing? Because that one has been really going parabolic ever since we've had political uncertainty. All right, selling off a little bit more now. Let's go to Bitcoin and the shorter term time frames.
Yeah, CJ, one thing that, I've seen already this morning, lots of discussion in our crypto community about is, how much credence can you give the technicals during a time like this when we have so much macro uncertainty, so much news related events weighing on price? And, Bitcoin does have a TD sequential buy 9 coming up tomorrow on the daily, but, can we really even give that too much significance given what we're seeing from, out of Europe and Asia right now?
Yeah, I mean, it depends where the 9 comes as well. Like if we get one that's above, that's not at the bottom of the trend, then we're probably going to test lower levels. That's kind of the characteristic of a lot of the 9s that we've seen. Being said, I do agree with that in terms of we don't know what the next development of this conflict is going to be or the true magnitude of how, uncertain things can get. You mentioned the potential, China taking Taiwan event. Something like that obviously would completely overwhelm any type of technicals. Being said, even when you have very bearish conditions like we had last night, support levels typically still hold, or you can use them as reliable targets. So, for example, what we were looking at yesterday was, we were talking about how this could be a local top. Obviously, it kind of did end up turning into one. Break below that level, enter the short trade, and so forth. Now, at this point that we've actually tested all the way down to that level where we really found support during January 22nd, it's not a surprise that we bounced from that level because it's such a strong support level on the 30 minutes. So technicals are still relevant, especially when you're just going very basic in the terms of support and resistance. So what I'm looking for right now, and how I'm looking to play this, um, probably would close out shorts. I mean, that would have been better to do that like an hour ago or a few hours back. Nevertheless, something I'm going to be watching for in terms of potential re-entering of a short trade would be, say the RSI goes up into oversold or overbought conditions, very similar to what we experienced here. And we touch up against a resistance level that has been pretty strong, acted as support historically. If we get rejected from that level and show weakness, that's where I look to go short, hit the bottom of the range as the first target, potentially take some profit on that short. If we see continued weakness and then a retest, and then the retest fails and shows additional weakness, then I'd look for the additional short to the bottom of the range, roughly at 33K. I think that's probably the likely situation over the next couple of weeks, even as tensions kind of calm here. Like we were talking about, this is just kind of bearish conditions even before the catalyst last night occurred. So that's kind of how I'm looking to play Bitcoin at the particular point. Obviously, if we rally harder than this level, you have to stop yourself out. But that's just kind of how I see things right now.
Yeah, and we can talk a little bit more about this on the Doge of the Day today. But right now, and whenever we see this sort of price action and global uncertainty, we typically see people moving out of the alts and more into Bitcoin. We have seen that to a certain extent over the last just 12 hours with the fear hitting the markets. Many alts have been hit hard. A few have actually held up pretty well. Luna, in particular, looking relatively strong amidst this market weakness. So we'll definitely dive into some altcoins, but for the time being, I'm not personally long any alts. Still holding on to my Bitcoin and core ETH positions, but ultimately still not looking to add at this point. Just kind of waiting for some more clarity or just signs of strength. And right now, we're just not getting that. So don't really like sitting on my hands, but that's just the way I'm positioned right now. So, but I think that's all we got for today. Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you'd like to join CJ and I in our community of crypto traders, you can do so at the link below me. We got a pro charting service, a chat with traders from all around the world. We publish actionable trade insights, news, have an extensive education curriculum, and a whole lot more. So definitely head over there and check that out. And please don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. But that's all we got for today. We'll see you guys again tomorrow.